Hello and welcome back to Raise Gaming, more Arc Raider news. Today we've got a few things to talk about, from say the interactive and walkable Speranza plan to the surprising response to the hate of late spawns that a lot of us have, as well as high investment raids as a concept, ongoing patch issues, the next map speculation. So let's begin, starting with the late spawn issues and the surprising feedback and response to it. To cut to the chase, I think we all know about this, where you spawn in and there's say 18 minutes left or 20 minutes left or even 24 minutes left. It's not the full 30, which can be absolutely damning. Where you might think, oh, spawning late for a matriarch or queen or this or that arc can actually be a good thing. And yeah, certain cases certainly. But take, say, Blue Gate matriarch farming. That's one of the easiest in my opinion. If you spawn late, the thing is dead before you even get there. So spawning late, you don't just like miss the best loot, it's all completely gone, and the reason you're there is now removed because by chance you got the late spawn. This is frustrating and irritating. A lot of people feel that it should be completely removed from the game. Personally, my feeling about it is that it can be useful for certain stuff, like late looting can be useful, doing quests when there's less people around, it's nice. In the context of PvP, you know, there's less people spawning constantly around you. There are some perks to it, but most of them are outweighed by the negatives, in my opinion. So lead designer Watkins talked about this as well a few days back, and his response is surprising. He says that the complaints about late spawns is a vocal issue, but the whole late joining a raid is actually an important part of the game. And the late joiners, on average, statistically profit more than the early joiners, which is surprising. As a quick reference, the absolute worst version of a late spawn is probably the trials, where you need to get in the raid as early as possible, do as much as you can to get a high ranking, and the late spawn RNG just screws you. So it doesn't matter whether you're profiting more, if that's part of the game, it's an issue. Watkins says that it's an interesting thing of data versus perception. We acknowledge the issues of like coming in to do a trial and clearly not having the time to get a relevant score. But similar to the perception of free kits versus what they actually do, the perception around late joining and what it affords you has been quite interesting. Players often say the loot's all going to be gone or whatever else, but players who late join economically profit more than the people who aren't. The session when you join fresh does get quieter over time, and they come across remnants of fights, take out bigger drones, or high ticket areas more readily than other players. So as you late spawn, you're more willing to go to the dangerous high value loot location, which might actually not be fully picked clean. Apparently their original intent with the late join system was to prevent raids from emptying out after 10 minutes and being like a dead lobby. It keeps the raid fresh for longer. They wanted someone to spawn late and go, oh well, plan A isn't possible now, guess I'll have to do plan B or C. But no matter what, there are plenty of contexts where if you late spawn, it's not possible to do what you wanted to do and you're going to be frustrated. So the final quote is, with things like trials, where there is only an objective and you need the time, it's kind of off the table that the late spawn's relevant. I think trying to do more on that side of things is where I want to look next. Coming in with a dedicated purpose, and that's been undercut by late join, is where I want to remove the pain point first. So they're looking at late spawns, they're going to make a change. How will they do it might be less obvious than we think. Personally, I would love the option to choose to start at the beginning of a raid, and I get a warning that's like, your matchmaking time will take longer, and I accept that. But then I get to choose. And then if you get to choose, I want a late spawn, you get priority matching, so super fast queues. And if late spawns are actually a good thing for you because of quests or whatever context, well then that's convenient. I think that's a cool solution, we'll see what they do. Next, I got something I really want to talk about. The issue of people not investing anything into raids, where you load in and you've got this like juice loadout with you and your friends, you've really invested and you win a fight, you're really happy, and then someone attacks you, you beat them, oh they were free kits, not much of a threat anyway, but their loot wasn't worth it, now I'm using my last shield recharges, my last bandages, another free kit attack, we deal with them, and now basically out of resources, the free kits didn't have anything worth fighting them for, they didn't really have meds, so we've not restocked, here comes the next free kit team, and you just whittle down, and eventually a free kit team takes you down, takes your amazing loot. It's a really frustrating part of the game in regards to PvP lobbies, where they're investing and risking little or nothing, and you don't have an advantage over them really. You do have utility, more explosives and other stuff, but you get what I'm saying. So I was excited to hear that the devs have been talking about special raids, referred to as high value rounds, where you have to bring in good gear. but they are worried about segmenting the player base, so this is interesting. This concept actually reminds me of a game called Dark and Darker that I really enjoyed. In that game, they had a matchmaking or like type of game or lobby called the high rollers. So the idea is that your juice players, you're in high investment, high risk kits, they have their own special like raids, as it were. So if you were to get that in Arc Raiders, you would know that people you're fighting have got good gear and what you're taking from them is valuable. But to do that, you have to risk your own good stuff. Interesting idea. Let's see their thoughts about it. So again, the lead designer, Watkins, talked about the fact that they've discussed a lot of different criteria for queuing up. There's other examples out there, like Labs and Escape from Tarkov needing this special item to get in. Quick reference to that, Labs is a really high value loot location, but one of the best places for geared PvP. Because to even enter, you have to invest into purchasing a ticket, as it were, a Labs card. So imagine if there was a map in Arc Raiders that you had to, say, commit 100,000 coins to even enter initially, outside of the gear. You'd want that raid to go well, so you on average invest more, right? That's Labs. Anyway, it continues by saying, I think for the moment, we don't want to segment the player base too much. We don't want people to be like, hey, we're trying to play together, but we don't match the criteria to play with you, and now we can't. There's hesitation to put barriers between players and the content that they want to play. So it's not something that's off the table for us, but we have to be very careful in how we do that. It's interesting. That is kind of Embark's answer to everything. Here's a really cool idea or concept. Here's the concerns. We're going to be very slow in how we go about it. The result of that should hopefully be satisfying updates and changes. But right now, when people are feeling more and more like agitated by the lack of updates, lack of changes, lack of balance stuff, a lot of promises, not a lot of delivering at this time, it gets annoying. But it doesn't matter if it takes them a while to do something great, if it's great when we get it. Watkins ended this topic by saying, I get the sentiment. You want to feel like, yeah, I'm coming in loaded and I know everyone else is going to be loaded, which is going to be a unique and interesting encounter with high risk, high reward behind it, rather than just another dude with a sticher from the ceiling, free kit or whatever, and the fifth version of that eventually gets us. So it's definitely on their mind. What do you guys think? A high roller style of matchmaking where you have to match a certain like base equipment value before you're allowed to queue into it? Could be interesting. All right, next up, I want to talk about the whole walkable speranza, which is a really cool idea, inspired by the likes of Destiny and its hubs, and, you know, Monster Hunter as well, where in Wilds, they've expanded that with the multiple base camps alongside the main, like, guild hub now. This is something that they want to do, and it will happen at the right moment. There's actually a good appetite for this concept. Speranza as a place is cool. All the NPCs walking behind you, the underground area. I love when the rain's coming down from above. Could be a really sprawling, interesting place to go with mini games and other stuff. This is something they've actually discussed. And when they were talking about it, it was early at the front end of the game. It's not something that's crucial to the experience, but is a cool aspect of games. Watkins said that he loves the vibe and aesthetic of a walkable hub, but he would still want to preserve the menu systems they have because it allows you to make choices and set up really quick and efficient, rather than having to physically run to a different trader, trade with them, then run physically to a different trader, trade with them, back to the room to go into your like closet, and they go, I forgot this thing over at this NPC, gotta run over to them. There's an immersion factor to that, but again, the whole aspect of efficiency is important. Again, he says it's something we've discussed and will continue to discuss, and there's definitely a good appetite on the team for it. But it's more about when the right moment is available to open that door. So, sounds like it's coming to me. Okay, quicker one. I just want to talk about the speculation of the Volcano Map. If you're unaware about this, there was an update not too long ago where the background of Blue Gate seems to have changed. Rather than say the walking titans or barons or whatever they are, distance, you're now seeing some interesting background smoke to a specific direction. And it's a massive multi-cloud, like black fumes coming out. Very interesting in the background. People are speculating like, what is that? Why is it there now? And coming to a few cool conclusions. The idea is that, you know, Arc Raiders takes place around Italy, specifically around the Naples area. And of course, there is a volcano in that region, the one that was tied to the whole destruction of Pompeii. So there's some cool context there. There's physically one in the real world that this region's based on. I've seen some cool overlapping like Google Maps compared to the map that we have Arc Raiders right now. And yeah, it's very accurate. We actually see a giant crater on that map. So a volcanic themed map. What would that be like? Well, I like the idea of a heat condition. MBAC tried the whole cold snap thing, and it ended up working out really well, changing the way people interact with Ark, other players, and the gameplay in general. I like the idea of a hot environment where we're doing kind of the backwards version of that, making it hard to traverse certain areas of the map, or at certain times during the raid. Maybe you need to bring in certain equipment to function. You can't bring certain explosives or items because they'd explode or something from the heat. Now obviously, there's loads of stuff they could do with new Ark to fit in a location like that, in the way that we saw Shredders and Stellamontis. And you gotta ask what Ark would also function in a hot environment like that. Which Ark would actually overheat if they went there? I could see like a mining system with like ticks crawling across the walls and such. I could see leapers crawling through tunnels as a really cool, scary thing with their big eye in the dark. And of course, burners would fit into a fire-related environment. But what about pops? Maybe not those. Maybe they'd explode from the heat. But it's definitely a unique context to give them new ideas for Ark. I'd like the idea of it. So what do you guys think? Also, as a final mention for the news, there are ongoing things with Out of Bounds. We're seeing clips now posted in the current patch where it's happening even on Spaceport, where, normally I'd be seeing this kind of thing on Stellamontis or Damn Battlegrounds. Yeah, also Spaceport in this case. I mentioned recently from this clip where they have made changes to Stellamontis, where you can get out of the map, shoot at people in the map, but the bullets don't go through the walls anymore, which is a great change, but like a band-aid fix, because obviously people are still getting out of the map. I think every week right now, we should expect a change with the patch, every Tuesday, I believe, where they're making efforts to deal with this. But at least they're working on it. Just heads up, it's clearly still a thing. But yeah, there you have it. That's my latest news for Ark Raiders this week. I hope that was interesting. Let me know what you think. Would you prefer if late spawns were removed, or you had like matchmaking choice? Or the high rollers concept? Are you excited for the interactive Walkable Hub? Hopefully the upcoming Tuesday we see an impactful patch, whether that's something new like the whole toxic swamp concept, or just a balance patch, or the roadmap, please. I just want something to look at. Until next time though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.